Hello there and welcome. This is as always Mikhail or Michael speaking, and before I start this video I want to say thank you all who decided to support me financially, be it through Patreon, PayPal or Super Thanks. I really appreciate your generosity, so thank you friends and have a blessed day. Now today's video we will start in the north, in the General Liman direction, towards which continuously Russian forces were advancing for a long time. Now to the very south of the front line they are attacking in the direction of Torski and Zarichne, and in the center they attack in the direction of Terni and Yampolivka. And although Russian attacks in the direction of Yampolivka were repelled by the Ukrainian forces and the battles in its direction is currently ongoing, Russian forces however were able to advance in the direction of Terni and are now a kilometer away from the very first houses of this village. Here is exactly how much territories Russians took control over the last 24 hours. As you can see, Russian forces continue to expand their control within this forested area, as well as along this road which leads to Terni village. In fact, those recent territorial changes were also reported by pro-Ukrainian media. Here on Deep State map was the situation of yesterday and now the situation of today, with those territories coming in under Russian control. So as you can see, they somewhat match. Now the reason why they decided to show that Russians lost some positions in front of Yampolivka is due to continuous Ukrainian counterattacks here in this area, which makes the whole situation here quite fluid. Now thanks to the fact that this map has a topography map, we can see that this forested area is located on the hill along which Russians are attacking. As you can see, whoever controls this hill controls the valley in front of village of Terni. And with Russians also advancing along this forest, which is also a hill, we can see that Russians are first securing the tactical heights that overlook the valley, and then advance within the valley itself along the very road I've mentioned before. As I speak, fighting continues, with Russians doubling down on their efforts in reaching Terni and capturing it completely, and same should be said about the village of Yampolivka. Now before we move to the other portion of the front, I have this video here for you. The first portion of it I must censor due to the infantry present within it, but this is a video of Russians spotting secret Ukrainian airfield and first bombarding it with cluster munition and later on destroying what was left with precision ammunition. According to the source that provided this video, all of the helicopters were destroyed in their spot and were unable to fly away to safety. From this front line, let's move to Avdiivka and discuss situation in Berdychi. All throughout the last few days, Russian forces were continuously attacking in attempt to completely capture the village itself. Here, Ukrainians threw their best reinforcements to stop Russians from doing that, which resulted in a loss of many infantry fighting vehicles such as Bradleys and tanks, of which most pricey ones are of course Abrams tanks. Now Ukrainian counterattacks are coming wave by wave, and each wave is weaker than the previous one. In fact, Ukrainian counterattacks became so ineffective that Russians started counterattacking, and as a result of those activities, they were able to significantly expand their zone of control within Berdychi and capture those territories in the last 24 to 48 hours. As you can see, this put Russians into a control of more than half of the village, with them reaching this intersection, cutting the supply road to Semenivka, thus isolating and greatly hindering Ukrainian defensive capabilities within the rest of the village. As I speak, the fighting for the village continues, with Russians currently attacking towards its center, as well as now attacking in the direction of Semenivka. Generally speaking, both Russians and Ukrainians continue to battle hard all across this front. Both sides are engaging in attacks and counterattacks. In attempt to break the balance of power, Ukrainians are actively counterattacking in attempt to stop Russians along the Berdychi, Semenivka, Orlivka, Umansky line, with Russians relentlessly conducting attacks of their own in the obvious attempt to penetrate this defensive line in many places and overwhelm Ukrainian defenders fighting on this portion of the front. Now, before I move on to the other portion of the front, I would like to ask you if you liked this video so far. If you did, please consider supporting this video with a like, comment, and of course, if you haven't subscribed, a subscription. Words cannot describe how important your actions and support for the growth of this channel. Thank you for considering it, and let's move on. Not moving far away, let's discuss situation in Pervomaisky, where generally speaking, right after the fall of Nevelsky, nothing works in favor of Ukraine. With the fall of this important stronghold, Ukrainians lost important foothold on this portion of the front, and instead Russians acquired that foothold. As you can see with it, they spearheaded right through Ukrainian defensive lines here in this area, threatening not only the encirclement of Ukrainian formations in Pervomaisky, but also across this entire portion of the front, which may trigger full Ukrainian withdrawal from this area to the next settlement in line, which will be Netailove village. Of course, it is important to note that with the fall of Nevelsky, the settlement of Krasnogorovka, which is now being actively stormed by the Russians from the south as well as from the east, will also be in danger of Russian flank attacks, and it seems that Russians are preparing for operations in attempt to attack in this direction and move the front line closer to Krasnogorovka. So again, the capture of Nevelsky cannot be underestimated, as it was crucial for the Ukrainian defensive efforts, and now it is crucial for Russian offensive operations. In fact, as Nevelsky fell, more and more portions of Pervomaisky had started to fall to the Russians, as the village in which Ukrainians are currently taking defense is located in the low grounds, with Nevelsky located on the dominating heights, which allows Russians to station their ATGM crews and directly fire upon any Ukrainian reinforcements that are coming through either Netailove or the next settlement in line. As Ukrainian logistics are crippled by that, fighting in Pervomaisky becomes a struggle, and it shows, as Russians were able to advance here yet again and capture this portion of the front within the last 24 hours. As you can see, little is left of the Ukrainian-controlled portion of the village, and as more Russian advance, the less and less forces Ukrainians can allow themselves to station within the village. If they stationed too much soldiers here, they will be like sitting ducks for the Russian artillery and aviation. So with the decrease of Ukrainian forces within the Pervomaisky village, Russian attacks become more and more successful. Now from here let's move to Zaporozhian front and discuss situation around so-called Vremivka tactical bridgehead, which of course is not existent anymore. And here Russians were also able to advance from the settlement of Priutne in the direction of Novodarivka and to the flank of Levadne. And here is exactly how much territories that was. And as you can see, they are creeping ever close to Levadne, which, if you remember, they lost in the Ukrainian summer counteroffensive. From here let's move to the Rabotina salient and discuss the situation here. Like mentioned in many of my previous videos, Russian forces continue to attack from Novopokrovka in the direction of Moatak-Machka, from Verbova along this road, and in attempt to encircle and overrun Ukrainian formations in Rabotina, they are also attacking from the settlement of Novoprokopivka in the direction of Rabotin village itself, as well as from Kapani in the direction of the western portion of the village, and in attempt to cut off this supply road, of course with an obvious intent of getting rid of this salient. And as a result of successful offensive operations, Russian forces were able to advance to the northwest of Verbove and capture this portion of the front line. As you can see, slowly but surely Russians are pushing from the east in attempt to envelop Rabotina from this direction, with a threat of encircling several Ukrainian formations located in these areas. Perhaps Russians found Rabotina a very tough nut to crack, and they decided to reach the village from this general area, closing off the salient in this kind of manner. I guess time will tell, but I would like to know your opinion. What will happen first? Russians capturing this portion of the front, or Russians capturing Rabotina village? Thank you for your valuable opinion in advance. With this I end today's video. Hopefully it was to your liking and was informative enough. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day, and always remember, Russia will be free and great.